Oh, sorry. So I think now we are ready to have your presentation. So without further ado, please, the room is yours.
Thank you so much, Ibu Dia. Allow me to share about the potential health benefits of Indonesian traditional fermented foods. Uh, Indonesian traditional fermented foods mostly involving lactic acid bacteria, and mostly they are spontaneous fermentation. Means there is no adding starter cultures. And we also have, besides lactic acid bacteria, we also have mold. As we know, tempeh, yeah, involving mold, rhizopus, right? And then some also mixed cultures and may involve yeast. Like tempeh also actually mixed cultures, and then involving yeast such as tape, what we call it tape, which is fermented cassava. So these are classification of fermented foods in Indonesia: eggs, yeah, and then cereal products, dairy products, fish products, fruits and vegetables, legumes, meat products, starch crop, and some minerals products. The fermented food comprise, oh my goodness. The fermented food comprise about 1/3 of the worldwide consumption of food and 20 to 40% by weight of individual diet. And interestingly, actually, fermented food is the first food processing, I believe, to preserve the food. Fermentation enhances or alters nutritive and health modulating properties of food constituents. We know that microbes in fermented foods introduce new compounds to the foods that are delivered to the gut, right? They also produce what we call it bioactive compound. Many of the species of microbes involved in the fermented foods are phylogenetically related to probiotic strains. Fermented foods can be an important dietary source of live microorganisms, microbes. And microbes in fermented foods may contribute to human health in a manner similar to probiotics. What to do? The renaissance of interest on traditional fermented food as a reservoir of novel microbes producing pro-health molecules. We know that whether it's natural population or starter cultures, yeah, when we add to when it's present in the raw material, either aerobic or anaerobic condition, then produce fermented foods. And they release bioactive from food constituent, what we call it bioactive compounds or pro-health molecules. The position of fermented dairy food for non-driven optimization of a novel generation of functional food. And we can say it's a hyper food 2.0. Importance of fermented vegetables. We know that enrichment of food substrates biologically with vitamins and other nutrients, and enrichment of human diet through development of a wide diversity of flavors, aromas, and textures in food, right? But then also preserve the food, preservation of substantial amounts of vegetable and fruits, and detoxification, such as reduce anti-nutritional properties of vegetable during the fermentation process. Later, I will inform you what kind of anti-nutritive will be produced. A decrease in cooking time and fuel requirement. And this is very important because we understand well that fruit and vegetable also containing vitamins, minerals, and enzymes what we need. And mostly will be destroyed by heat treatment. So preservation by fermenting fruit and vegetable is a good way in preserving heat sensitive nutrients and enzymes. So we understand that if we have raw materials and then either we use natural fermentation or we add the previous, like tempeh, yeah, we use previous tempeh, what we call it backsloping, and or sometimes we also use starter culture, and then involving the enzymes from the microbes, yeah, and they will produce bioactive compounds and in fermented foods. The question is, uh, if we talk about probiotics, why traditional fermented foods as source of potential probiotics? We understand that mostly traditional fermented foods involving lactic acid bacteria and mostly lowering pH value of the foods. Yeah, but we can observe from the sour taste. And for as a consequence, it will inhibit the growth of pathogenic microbes. Viable microbes also consumes in fermented foods. Healthy human microbiome, what we understand is the more diverse the microbes in the gut, the healthier the microbiome will be. And then they also produce metabolite products, what we call it bioactive compounds. Regarding to these viable microbes consumed in fermented foods, then enrich the diversity, but also as a source of protein because they are single cell protein. How about the amount of viability of the microbes consumed? From this is summary of lactic acid bacteria counts in our fermented foods. Yeah, you can see here that like dairy products representing here the study. Yeah, it's mostly from 10 to power 2 to power 10 and in between. Yeah, and then for fermented vegetable, it's from 10 to power 4 to power 8 or 9. And then tempeh also, yeah, from power 3 to power 9. Well, some other, yeah, we can see here, fermented cereals also, certain amounts of fiber microbes being consumed. So then, it's mentioned before that if we have foods and then it's fermented, then also preservation, yeah, it support the safety, right? And then also they produce flavor. Yeah, the fermenting microbes produce flavor, texturant, and then produce also bioactive from fermented products. And some of these bioactive compounds may also have antagonism against pathogenic, which support the food safety. These are potential probiotics from various traditional fermented foods in Indonesia. Tempeh, yeah, Daddy, as this is I did reserve maybe almost 28 years on Daddy of West Sumatra, and then tape. This is tape. Tape is fermented cassava, and then we also have what we call it mandai. Mandai is fermented young jackfruit. It's available in Kalimantan Island. And we also have fish, fermented fish, what we call it peda fish. It's in a brine solution. And then we also have tempoyak. Tempoyak is the kind of, is this durian? If you may hear about durian. Durian is a tropical fruit, I think. And it's fermented and then we call it tempoyak. And then we have also this sayur asin, yeah, vegetable in brine solution. It's uh, involving pediococcus mostly, and then tempeh. So then, see if we have For example, the case study is fermented food dairy product is here. Daddy. Then we can check screen the lactic acid bacteria involved in the fermentation of daddy, which is mostly are spontaneous. I also have research collaboration with Prof. Kun that we can also compare between backsloping and also with and spontaneous fermentation, and it's published in one journal, and it showed that the processing or manufacture of that is really need to be well managed, yeah, to prevent potential pathogenic microbes. And then we may have some potential probiotic from this lactic acid bacteria, and then also they may release bioactive peptides. We should identify, and then of course then we'll produce superfood production or a kind of functional foods, yeah, for human health. I got this from Prof. Kun, yeah. Bill Gates thinks understand the body's microbiome will help solve malnutrition. In early of October 2019, Bill Gates addressed at Cambridge University and then expressed his belief that understanding the role of gut microbiota in health and disease will help solve some of the current diseases we are facing. Okay, let us imagine if these are our human body is a planet, so only 10% in our body is human. 90% they are alien living together with us. Yeah, bacteria, fungi, even viruses. So then, in my opinion, yeah, because we are only 10%, right? We have to be kind to the 90% of the alien living with us. So they, instead of they create problem for us, they support us to be healthy. That is one point. And second point is that because we are only 10%, I think diet is more important than the genetic. Even though we are not saying that genetic may not also give impact, but probably the food we consume is more give more impact to our human body. So this is also already explained by Prof. Kun that in the human microbiome there are more than 116 species and 1,000 species in the skin and some others, yeah, and 500 to 1,000 is in the gut. Prof. Kun also explained, but I again show this slide to show that how important our GI tract, because it's true, yeah. Gut lining is made out of single layer of cells and one layer of cells protecting the outside from the inside, unusually allowing the nutrients from food to be absorbed easily. But this, however, requires a large surface to be efficient, as we eat about 65 tons of foods and drinks during our lifetime. So it's in a size of tennis court, it's true. But this large surface needs to be defended against pathogens, toxins, and allergens. So then having a commensal microbiota may assist in preserving this risk from move-in. But in order to stay healthy, we need more than just that intact barrier, molecular defense system, and functional immune system. Then regulate the microbiome to improve health. Yeah, we see this host, yeah, diet and microbiome is really interconnected. Health benefits of proteinous bioactive compounds in fermented foods. For example, let's say tempeh. or maybe I can give another example like natto in Japan. These are protein-rich fermented foods. They the microbes involved will produce enzymes, and some may release an anti-thrombotic enzymes like in natto, and bioactive peptide, yeah, which may act as ACE inhibitory to prevent the hypertension, and then may have antimicrobial properties such as bactericide, for example, and then some peptides may have antioxidant, anti-cancer, and cholesterol lowering effect, even immunomodulatory properties. The bioactive compounds in tempeh for the treatment of obesity, it's been reported that soybean tempeh with rhizopus oligosporus produce E-peptide and I-peptide, which is showed positive antioxidant activity, and E-peptide also has an ACE inhibitory property with an IC 50 of 0.6. And a solid-state bioprocessed soybean with rhizopus oligosporus containing phenolic compounds which inhibit amylase alpha glucosidase and antioxidant through the BPH method. So then that means prevent the obesity, yeah, because inhibit the amylase alpha glucosidase. And then also the phenolic component showed antioxidant through the BPH. This is reported by different authors. And then important thing is in tempeh, isoflavones, proteins, and peptides. So there are 3 steps in isolation of lactic acid bacteria from traditional food dairy, fermented dairy food. Yeah. This is a source of live microorganism, and BP stand for bioactive peptides. And then the screening of lactic acid bacteria for ability to release bioactive peptides can be done. And then exploration of the best bioactive peptide producer strain for innovation in dairy food fermentation. Now, microorganisms as cell factories for functional food development. Bioprocessing of plant materials use lactic acid bacteria, bifidobacteria, bacillus, and gluconobacter, and also yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and fungi, aspergillus, such as what we have is oncom, is a peanut cake, fermented peanut cake in Bandung especially, and then rhizopus for tempeh and monascus. Provide strategies to produce bioactive compounds, enhance food nutraceutical properties, improve bioavailability of proteins, minerals, amino acid, especially gamma aminobutyric acid, and phytochemicals, in this case phenolics and sterols. We understand that phenolic compounds also support good bacteria in our gut, as well as lead to a marked increase of microbial metabolites, such as organic acid, exopolysaccharides, and conjugated linoleic acid. Higher bioavailability of polyphenol. And then remember that fruits and vegetables is also source of fibers, proteins, and polyphenols, and also what we call it fructose, yeah, metabolized into valuable bioactive compounds. And usually cereal are low in lysine, but single cell protein is high in lysine. So when we consume tempeh together with rice, so the amino acids are complementing each other. Oh, what happened with this? Is it the one? Yes. Sorry for the technical issue. Fermentation improves the nutritional properties by removing anti-nutrients, for example, oxalate, protease, and amylase inhibitors, lectins, and condensed tannins, even phytic acid. Some research prove that lactic acid bacteria has ability to remove phytate. And we understand that phytate is anti-nutritive because they chelate or bound minerals, yeah, especially, for example, iron. And also some may have inhibit harmful components such as mycotoxin, biogenic amines, and cyan, 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 cyanogenic glycosides. It happened in tape, the fermented cassava. We understand that some cassava has the bitter taste, cassava mostly containing high enough cyanide. Yeah? But then by fermentation, producing a tape, this cyanogenic glycoside will be suppressed. And then chemical and physical features of raw fruits and vegetables mimic human GI tract in at least in acid environment, even though it's not as acid as our stomach yet. But high osmotic pressure, poor nutrient profile, and presence of undigestible nutrients and antibacterial compounds. Adaptation of this harsh environment in plant enable plant-derived lactic acid bacteria capable of reaching to the intestine in the living state, what is very important as a probiotic candidate. And resistance ratio of plant-derived lactic acid bacteria to gastric juice and bile may be comparable, even higher than animal-derived lactic acid bacteria. So if we would like to screen lactic acid bacteria as a candidate of starter culture, of a candidate of producing metabolite, then it's the velocity of growth, and then must be speed producing lactic acid, and then also could be heterofermentative or synthesis of aroma precursor compounds, and then increase the concentration of free amino acids, and then offer production of vitamins. Sometimes they produce vitamins, like in tempeh. They the vitamin B is increasing as compared to the raw soybean, and a liberation of bioactive peptides and synthesis of gamma amino butyric acid, and then synthesis of exopolysaccharide in some, for example, in some of fermented milk. Now we are discussing about the importance of vitamins, minerals, and enzymes in fruits and vegetables. So minimally processed fruits and vegetables actually is expected. The more we consume, the better for our bioavailability of vitamin, minerals, and enzymes. So fresh cut of fruits and vegetables, autochthonous or indigenous lactic acid bacteria, without any heat treatment mostly, is an example of shelf-stable minimally. So processed fruit combining agreeable nutritional and sensory properties, and may also has probiotic potential. So here is snake fruit. If we call it salak, why we call snake fruit? Because the skin is like the skin of snake. And this is mango and some other fruits. It's a lot available in West Java, especially from Bogor to Bandung. On the way, we have Cianjur, small city. Then they produce a lot of this kind of minimally processed fruits and vegetables. So then, this data is from IDF, but that currently dairy product is dominating, yeah, fermented food, while vegetables and then uh, fruit is only in a small amount. I think it's timely for us, yeah, to consider the importance of fruits and vegetables as a fermented food. We know that this is the problem. If we have the raw material and then processing, then we have added value after fermentation, because then it's more nutritious, easily absorbed, and also uh, sometimes improve nutritional content, and also uh, remove some anti-nutritive, improving the bioavailability of other nutrients. If we compare fermented foods versus probiotics, remember probiotic must contain live microbes, must be tested and shown to have health benefit, must deliver level of live microbes shown to confer benefit. While fermented foods made by live microbes may not survive into the food you consume. Yeah, in case of post-fermentation of processing, and may not have been tested for health benefits beyond basic nutritional value. Likely healthy dietary components, but may not meet the bar to be called a probiotic. While probiotic fermented foods must contain live microbes, must be tested and shown to have health benefit. The health benefit must result at least in part for the live microbes present. The health benefit must go beyond meeting basic micro and macronutrients need, and must deliver level of live microbes shown to the conferred benefit. Then benefits of fermented foods. Increase variety of nutritious foods to our diet. Food ingredients to improve flavor, such as yogurt in curry, for example, soy sauce in stir fry dishes, and cheese in a variety of dishes. And then improve nutritional quality. We know that in Taipei, I have a good friend from California, Berkeley, Dr. Diana Barrett. She was with me in 1980 something, yeah, in Indonesia, 1982. And we were at the time at Bogor Agriculture University, and she did research on fermented cassava, or we call it tape flour, and indeed improved the protein quality in cassava. Yeah, the essential amino acid is even better. The presence of yeast also in tape increases vitamin B and removes cyanogenic glyphosate, as I mentioned before. It is a kind of detoxification. How about tempeh? Malt fermentation helps activate the soybean's isoflavone component from the glycone form, what we call it diethyl and genistein, to glycone, diethionine, and genistein, which is more readily absorbed by the body. So again, this is bioavailability. Genistein is alpha glucosidase enzyme inhibitor. And also fermented foods remove anti-nutritive factors such as phytate, right? And then glycosinolate and lactate. Increase bioavailability of minerals as before chelate to phytate. So then the bioavailability of mineral such as iron will be higher. Preservation, we understand well, yeah, extend shelf life of the fermented food as compared to the raw material, inhibit pathogenic and spoilage microbes, and then it's the minimally processed food, which is not in especially fruit and vegetable, not involving heat treatment. Even daddy in West Sumatra, it, they manufacture daddy without any heat treatment. Health benefits involving could be probiotics and then the presence of certain enzymes such as ICE inhibitory and then improved digestibility because microbes involved to break down into smaller molecules and easily digested. And yogurt contain higher folic acid. This table shows individual consumption of some fermented foods, average per person per year. And we can see here tempe in Indonesia, the individual consumption average per person per year is 25 kilogram. So maybe per day is about 65 gram in average. To be honest, I like tempe very much. Now talking about food guide. Actually, we already consume a lot different diverse or fermented foods every day, all over the world. But then there is no fermented food here supports the greater inclusion in food guides around the world, but not specifically mentioned fermented foods. Only India. In India, they mention, yeah, that the importance of fermented foods. Then it's really, I think, if I may recommend, yeah, fermented foods contribute to the diversity of gut microbiota and physiological function. Let us follow India and Canada to include fermented foods in Indonesian food guide. These are fermented food products, yeah, and a food-based dietary guideline in some countries, yeah. In China, no, there is no inclusion of yogurt. But in Switzerland, US, Canada, UK, Australia, Japan, Sweden, Portugal, they include yogurt, even though not mentioned specifically. That means daily intake in food guide not appreciated the benefits resulting from the process of fermentation supported by numerous studies. The impact of fermentation of food environment, we know that if we have native foods and then they contain certain amount of water, nutrients, temperature, and pH, and then during fermentation, then modify the physical and thermal operations and added ingredients, and then with the metabolically active fermentation, certain microorganisms, then food modified by assimilation of substrate and formation of metabolites and heat and metabolic activity of evolving microbial population. These are antimicrobial fermentation metabolite. We know that lactic acid, acetic acid, yeah, and then ethanol, carbon dioxide, diacetyl, hydrogen peroxide, deuterin as the bacteriocin, and then niacin. They are produced, yeah, and contribute to acidic taste, and then also some textural defects, yeah, for example. But then some may also be used as a biopreservation, and mostly in bacteriocin is GRAS status, obtained GRAS status. If we observe here that digestion and absorption, that non-absorbed milk course residue pass into the colon and feed the microbiota, right? And large majority of human microbiota inhabit in the colon, provides a dedicated niche for this population of symbiotic organisms. Microbiota fermentation of meal residue release a series of metabolites, in turn serve as substrate for other subset of microbiota. Here also in the colon produced what we call it short chain fatty acid, which it's a bioactive compound, of course, because they has I mean, they support the immune response, and then also they may serve as colonocyte, yeah. And then colon contains a biomass formed by microbiota, meal residues, and secondary metabolic products in a dynamic chain of metabolic reaction. Fermented foods and beverages have long been a part of human diet. In some cases, they offer nutritional and health attributes worthy of recommendation of regular consumption daily item and most national food guides. The importance of fermentation is reflected by the amount and variety of foods and beverages traded, not only for the benefits on nutrition and health promoting effects, but also preservation, safety, and their peculiar appreciated sensory attributes. Emphasis on the history of use, traditional food, and general recognition of safety is usually used for fermented foods. These vegetable fermented foods mostly are involving some this kind of bacteria, especially for those who are in the food technology. And they may be in the form of fruit, like tape, and then vegetable like sayur asin or sauerkraut, and then legumes like tempeh, and then cereals, yeah, and also in Western countries, cereals and grape mostly used. So the abundance of residing non-lactic acid bacteria community at the beginning is a lot, but then after fermentation, then potential use full of lactic acid bacteria or microbes are increasing. So plant food origin is the source of essential nutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidant. As we know that polyphenol also is only containing in plant-based foods, and then fibers and low sugar as dairy alternative. Plant-based fermentations as the new carrier for dairy-based, suitable for lactose intolerance, milk allergic, enabling access also to vegan people. So the proposed food guide, currently the food guide only focus on the original form of the food source and harmonization with economic reality related to industrial sectors. Approach on type of product being consumed. Create 3 different categories: natural foods without any type of processing, manufactured foods which rely on mixing different food groups as well as other chemicals, stabilizers, preservatives, and flavor enhancer, and fermented foods which are naturally processed. Thank you so much for your kind attention.